If you hear mysterious noises and sounds, if you hear your name called when there's no one around, keep going, dear listener. This story is for you. I hope it will accomplish what I wrote it to do. In these words, you will find all the tools you'll need so that when you're faced with unimaginable things, you won't react with fear, as most people do. You'll be equipped, calm, and able to see the truth. My best, Hedy. This is What We Keep Hidden. By Nicole. Chapter 13. Gillespie. Out in the garden with Betty, I was still thinking about the strange occurrences going on in Betty's house, like what happened the previous day. I pondered about the chill in the air, the complete lack of sound the dishes made, and the small human-like shadow. Could Betty's house be sitting on a strong electromagnetic field? Surely that could explain things moving on their own, especially items with magnetic properties, like metal utensils. Maybe the cold air shift signaled a change in air pressure. Could that have coaxed the cabinet doors open? Maybe the iron handles could have added to the magnetic force, while also drawing out the dishes? As outlandish as these theories seemed, I would get halfway through a plausible explanation before stopping dead in my tracks when it came to that small shadow. "What you thinking about over there?" Betty's voice jolted me back to the present. I couldn't possibly tell her what I was thinking about, so I quickly blurted out something about my radio. In reality, it was a problem I had solved quite some time ago, but she didn't know that. Well, that's a real pickle, kid," Betty murmured. "I don't know much about that subject, but I can help you get in touch with some answers." "You can?" I asked. "Of course. Come on, let's go up to the house. It's a good time for a break anyways." In the parlor, Betty pulled out one of the long folders stacked on the shelves. Abstract shapes in blue and yellow and red danced across the front. One of the organic shapes had Dizzy Gillespie written across it. "This one gave me and Clark so much joy when it came out," she mentioned quietly, talking to herself as if she forgot I was in the room. I wish I could have shared it with Jimmy too. She shook her head as if to shake the thought from her mind and placed the needle on the record. Horns started to blast from the speaker in a beat that forced your body to move. "Come on, Hedy. Show me what you've got." At that, Betty started to dance around the room, weaving between the furniture and moving her arms like an octopus swimming through a kelp forest. I smiled and started swaying to the music. I never danced in front of people before. It felt too vulnerable and awkward. No, Betty frowned. "You can do better than that. Get those wiggles out, kiddo." She took my hands, and we both started to flail our arms about. I giggled at the thought of how silly we must look. Betty let go of my hands and gestured for me to keep going, as she faked playing a saxophone while dancing around the room. I let out a chortle. If she didn't care about looking so goofy, well, then I guess I shouldn't either. I jumped around and spun in circles, moving my arms like a squid, laughing until I was gasping for air. By the time the song ended, we both collapsed into the sofa, out of breath. "Whew, those are some moves, kiddo," Betty laughed, reaching up for a high five. "I didn't know I could do that," I answered as I gave her one. "I'm getting too old for this," Betty sighed. She leaned back and rested her head on the sofa cushions as she closed her eyes. "Now what? A nap?" I asked hopefully between breaths. Now we lay back, close our eyes, and try to see the colors of the music. You can't see music, I protested. Oh, you'd be surprised. You said you were having trouble thinking of answers, right? Yeah, I said cautiously. Then trust me, this is how you're going to get them. I let out a sigh and fell back into the cushions. Betty slyly checked on me through squinted eyelids. The record seemed to sense our exhaustion and played a more mellow melody. All I could see was the other side of my eyelids, and I was getting restless and frustrated at my complete lack of knowing how I was supposed to see the music I was hearing. I could feel Betty put a hand on my arm to calm my impatient movements. Just listen. Don't force it. So I sat there and listened and listened. And just when I was about to give up and go get a glass of water, pop! There it was. A little teal blob popped into view with the sound of a horn. My curiosity now piqued. I settled into the couch and stayed vigilant for more movement. Purple, teal, now green, flashes of a bright neon yellow, all coming together like a moving abstract painting. Wow, I whispered under my breath. 2 straight lines started to come into view in the darkness, slowly crossing and uncrossing themselves to the rhythm of the horns. Why does that seem so familiar? I thought. In my studies of Tesla and his experiments, I remember coming across electromagnetic fields. When I asked Mrs. Mom to explain what those were in more detail, she gave me the same answer she always did. Go look it up. I do blame her, or should I say credit her, for the research habit that I've kept up my entire life. These electromagnetic fields, or EMFs for short, were cited as the cause of unexplainable phenomena, ranging from physical illness to religious experiences. Seems like a catch-all, right? The fact that Tesla was using them for energetic fuel was just the tip of the iceberg. These lines dancing in the darkness reminded me of an article I came across about a centuries-old technique of finding water through dowsing rods. They were not only used to find water underground, but even certain metals and other anomalies that were hidden from the human eye. We had some copper wire left over from rewiring the electrical systems in the house. I figured I could use some of that to fashion my own dowsing rods for an investigation the next time I was here. Hey kiddo, how about some butterfly lemonade today instead? I screamed, startled out of my train of thought. I opened my eyes and realized the music had stopped, and Betty wasn't next to me on the couch anymore. I looked up and saw her walking into the parlor with 2 glasses filled to the brim with purple liquid swirling around some ice cubes, each with a butterfly pea flower over the side. Yikes, didn't mean to scare you. I thought you heard me get up a while ago. Seems both of us dozed off after a while. Oh, wow. I guess that really helped, I told her. I got carried away with my thought experiments. Ha ha! I knew it would, Betty said, setting both glasses down on the table. I would do the same thing for my Jimmy when he had that same concentrated look on his face. This time, Betty caught her own admission of Jimmy without any help from me. She bit her lips tightly closed, wincing at the pain. Who was Jimmy, and why did Betty not like talking about him? After our snack, and with the gardening tasks for the day all completed, I was eager to get home to work on a set of dowsing rods for this new experiment. Now here was a tool that would point me in the right direction. Or at least any direction. See what I did there? Well, I thought it was punny. Lucy and I said our goodbyes to Betty and Humphrey and started making our way towards the grove. It was still bright out, so I knew I had plenty of time to make them as soon as I got home. I knew I would need some data for control points, or what would be considered normal or regular readings. This would give me a baseline to compare the data from Betty's house to. Coming up to the grove, I was preparing a plan to get control readings around my house when I saw a small boy seated on the ground, just a few feet away, through the leaves and the branches. I hadn't seen anyone in the grove since we moved here, and I was shocked at seeing him myself, so I definitely didn't want to startle him as we approached. "Hello," I called to the boy as we got closer. He sat cross-legged on the ground and seemed to be playing airplanes with the sticks in front of him. The sleeves of his sailor outfit were a little worn and faded at the hems, and his matching sailor hat was more cream than white. I wasn't sure if he had heard my greeting, so I repeated myself. "Hello, I'm Hedy. This is Lucy." "I've seen you before," he answered, without looking up from his game. "Oh, I stuttered, trying to make sense of his strange greeting, especially since I had never seen him. "Then you must live around here too?" I asked warily. He looked up and studied me intensely, then smiled. He slowly raised his arm and pointed. I followed the invisible line from the tip of his finger and found it ended right on the roofline of Betty's house. Wait, you live there?" I asked, astonished. "But I've never seen you." I looked back, only to find he had already run off somewhere, and the sticks he had been holding must have been dropped mid-air. A small depression had been left in the dirt where he was sitting, but there were no footprints surrounding it at all. Where did he scamper off to so fast? He couldn't have just floated away. If what he said was true, and he did live with Betty, could he have been the one I saw in the kitchen? He certainly moved as silently and quickly as the mess had appeared, and was about the same size as the figure that appeared in the doorway. Hey there, it's Hedy. Do you want to join our H&B secret society? I might even be able to convince Betty to share her famous butterfly PT recipe with you. We'll see about that. For now, head on over to laurennicole.art/stories to see how you can get your official member badge. See you soon. Thank you for joining us on this episode of What We Keep Hidden. Tune in next time to see what Hedy and Lucy get into next. What We Keep Hidden is written, narrated, and produced by Lauren Nicole. This has been a Lauren Nicole creation.